So Mr. Bloxham here, we're going to show the year 10s how to make apple pie. We're going to make sweet pastry, but we're not using an egg today. The first thing I'm going to do though is do the apples. So I've got an eating apple and a cooking apple. This eating apple is very small. So out of the pupils here, who knows what the variety of apple most cooking apples are in England? In England, what? Yes?
Granny Smith?
No, they're not Granny Smith. It's funny, my other year, my other class said that. Yes?
Pink Lady?
No, not Pink Lady. They're both eating apples, by the way. We've got two different peelers here. We've got this type, and I'm going to get Miss to go and get another one. I'm going to see if I can find another one, because we've got two different, we've got two different types of peelers. Now I'm going to show you both types. So this is the old-fashioned type. Now I'm going to put it straight in the rubbish bowl, the peelings, and we're going to put all this in the compost later. Yeah? So this is a Ramley apple, so nobody knew that. So that's, shush? Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't listen. So in here, first thing I'm going to do is start peeling it with this one. Now most of you prefer the other type actually, but as you can see it peels off okay with this one. Now we've got another type here. I reckon this is slightly quicker. If I was to time myself doing both, I reckon I'd be slightly quicker with this. Some things though, I think kiwis are quite quicker with that type of peeler. You can get a chair if you want one, Daisy, but you're welcome to stand if you want to stand. No problem. Now, there's a few differences between cooking apples and eating apples. Who can tell me any differences? Any hands up? We only ever have hands up. Rosie?
I said one for cooking, one for eating.
Well, you eat both of them, obviously. You eat both of them in the end. Yes?
Aren't eating apples a bit sweeter?
Sweeter, they're definitely sweeter. So, if you ate one of these, the cooking apples taste quite sour, right? So they're definitely different. So we need to cook the cooking apples as well. That's why they're called cooking apples. And you normally add sugar or sweetener to them. If you don't, they taste pretty sour, unless you like real sour things. The eating apples, obviously, you just normally eat. Don't even need to peel them, but we normally peel them for apple pies, but you don't have to. So the next one is I'll put them here. So I've got a big knife. So they're bigger as well. Look at this. This is a good example. They're normally bigger. They normally brown quicker actually. Now before you put your hand, before you do this, who knows why they go brown? There's a special name for it, why they go brown. In my other class, 4 people knew this morning, but how many people know why they go brown? What's the word when they go brown apples? Anyone know? Yes?
What?
Pardon?
What? 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 They rot the apple.
No, yeah, that's not called that. Sorry. So, shush. It's called eczemic browning. So that's one of the questions on your thing. So when you cut it, you cut it at the angle like so. So it's eczemic browning. So nobody knew that. So that's a good one. So in your exam, they sort of ask you that. That's a sort of question that could come up. So all the rubbish in the rubbish bowl. It's going in the compost later. And then I'm going to cook this. So when we cook this, I'm just going to dice it up, yeah, and I've got an eating apple. So for cooking, you can use cooking or eating apples. For cooking apples, look how much apple I've got from that. I'm hardly going to get any. So they're a lot quicker. When you're making apple pies for the cooking apples, it's going to be quicker. So I'm going to use, he's using that cooker here, I'm going to use this cooker here. So front right, put it on high. It's a nice big ring, this one here. I'm going to put the apple in. Then I'm also going to put in a little bit of water, but not too much water, but enough water so it doesn't burn. So I'm going to put in, I've got 1 apple, I'm only going to put in about 1 tablespoon. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of water, then I'm less likely to burn it. Now with the lid on, it will stop it evaporating as well. So when you put the water in, you have to keep an eye on this though, because some of my other classes, if you burn it without a lid on, then the water evaporates it better. So 2 tablespoons, and I'm also going to put some sugar in here. And I don't know if Mrs. put the sugar in ready for you, so we don't have to keep on spooning it out. So I don't think so. So I do need some sugar in there in a minute, but I'll have to wait till Miss comes in with the sugar. Thank you. Oh, well done. So rather than us all touching it, what you can do to put your sugar in, so we're all not touching it, is get your own spoon. Get your own spoon and carry your pot here, then you won't be contaminated because you're not actually touching anything because I've taken the lid off. So I'm going to put in, shush, Rosie, don't keep talking. Don't put any sugar in yours if you don't want it, right? So you'll need roughly 1 tablespoon of sugar for one large apple. I've got a really large one there, right? This one I won't need any, so I'm going to cut this up. But I'm not going to cut it. I'm going to cut it up. Now, what I could have done, which would be better, thinking about it, would actually make the pastry, because I'm not cooking this one, but I am cooking the other one, right? Because this is going to go brown. So how can I stop it going brown? There's about 4 famous ways of stopping it going brown. Who can tell me? Ben?
It's like covering it in like citrus.
Yes, cover it in citrus and normally lemon juice, right? Because it's a high acid. So nice and thin with this, as thin as you can. Because this is going to be for the French apple tart, right? So nice and thin. Yeah. And this is going to go around the top and it's going to be raw. Obviously, cut any bad bits out. These apples are all freed actually, all out of my garden or somebody else's garden. So you do have to be careful. They won't be as good as the shop ones because obviously they'll be farmed and then make sure they don't have the bits or less likely to have the stuffing. So I've finished with the water for the minute. But you can put them in water. So I'm just going to put these in the water. But actually what I could have done is put them straight on the tart in the oven. That would have been better. So I could have made the pastry first. I could have done the cooking one, then made the pastry, then done the eating one. That would be better. So I've finished with the chopping board for the minute. So I'm going to move that away. I might use it again. Now I'm going to make the pastry. So in here I've got twice as much flour to fat. And I want 2-3 tablespoons of water or half an egg in this. We're not using eggs. One, we haven't got any. And plus then you have to share an egg, and we're trying not to share stuff at the moment. So
How do you share an egg, sir?
well, you share an egg. I'll tell you how you share an egg. You crack it in a bowl, whisk it up together, and you divide it between 2. So that's quite simple, really. I know that sounds a bit unusual. So you can definitely do that. I'm giving myself a bit of space here, especially for when I roll it. So I do need that, but I don't need the cooling rack for ages time, right? So I'm ready here. So I can rub this together. Then, and this is called the rubbing in method. Now it's called short crust pastry. It's a really hard one here. Well, this is sweet pastry, but it's like short crust pastry with a bit of sugar in. So there's a tablespoon of sugar in this. And normally, short crust has water in. Sweet pastry sometimes has egg in it, but like I said, we're going to put water. Where I've got 150 grams of flour, this will take roughly 3 tablespoons of water, cold water. So I rub it. Now, who knows what it's called short crust pastry? Only hands up. It's a hard one, this. Yes?
Is it because the butter is just like spread throughout, whereas in puff pastry there's a slab of butter?
Good guess, but why would that call it short? No, so what happens is by rubbing the fat with the flour, the fat surrounds the flour molecule so it doesn't go stretchy. You know, you get bread and it goes stretchy and you can do that. This you won't be able to because it stops it, it makes it short. So normally a flour granule with water would be nice and long. This would make it all nice and short. So that's a hard one for you, so not many people would know that.
Do you prefer long or short?
Rosie, pardon Rosie?
Do you prefer long or short?
Pardon?
What kind do you prefer?
This is called short. You don't get long pastry. You get short pastry. You get puff pastry. In puff pastry, the molecules would be long because you normally put the water on first, then you add the fat, and it's called lamination for that. So I've got 2, so I'm only going to put 2.5 in, even though I said 3. Then with one hand, we mix it together. You can do this with a spoon. Shush. In a minute, Rosie, if you keep on misbehaving, I'll give you written work to do while the others cook, right? So you need to behave yourself, please. Thank you. So, as you can see, mix it up. 2.5 tablespoons was the right amount, right? Don't have it too sticky. Now, this is a complicated bit. Now, I will put this on the board because most of you will forget this bit. This is harder than it looks, even though it sounds quite easy. I'm going to make 3, but I also need lids. I'm going to do 3 bottoms and 2 lids, so I need 5, don't I? But I'm only going to cut it into 3 or 4 because I'm going to use all the odd bits for the other bits. So I'm going to cut this into 4. Or maybe 3 it might say on the board, but I'm going to cut it into 4, right? Even though I need 5, because I'm going to use the last bits of the bit. So I'm going to do all the bases first, because that's the most important. So cutting it, don't roll it out big, then do this. This makes it a lot harder. That's another tip, by the way. There's a few tips with this, which some of you will forget even though I'm showing you. So you need to pay attention, and that's going to save you time. Because I'm going to give you a mark out of 10 today for what they look like. So roll it, spin it, and as you can see, it's not stuck and it's big enough. So you need it bigger than that because it has to go up the sides, right? So that should be all right. and hopefully this will be enough to do the 3. So you get 3. Now, these are a real pain to wash up. Has Miss covered around greasing them, or does she do that? No. Has she done that or not?
No.
Okay, I'll try and get her to do that. She can do that while you're doing the apple and the pastry though, because that will take ages. So that's one done. Now as you can see, do not push it down yet. For baked or tart you push it down now, but I need the top to stick on there. Do you see that? So that's most important, don't do that yet. 2, 3, 4, and one of these is going to be a lid basically, and then the other lid will be out of the thing. So one of these is going to be cut off because it's only going to be a tart which is not going to have the top on. So this one is going to be the tart. Lift it up, tuck it in. So that's a bit harder than it looks doing that. Push it over. Now try not to push it over too much because as it cooks it shrinks a bit, right? So I'm going to push it in down a little bit before I do that. Yeah. Gordon Ramsay, one thing he does, he sometimes cooks it like that and pushes it off once it's cooked for some of his tarts. I've done that sometimes, but that wastes a bit of the pastry. So this one here, I might show you that actually. No, I can't because I'm going to put lids on these. So you need to keep the bit on here till you put the top on. Otherwise, if I try and do that, it's hard to stick it on that bit, yeah? Now normally we'd have a pastry brush here, but rather than use loads of pastry brushes, I'm just going to use a little bit of water out of my bowl with my fingers, otherwise we have to dirty loads of pastry brushes. So now I'm going to do the lid. Now the lid's one of the hardest things. So in here, I put some sugar in there, and that's done in that time, that's good. It goes a sort of mushy colour. Now I put in, how much tablespoons of water do I put in here?
2.5.
No, that was in the pastry.
2.
Yeah, I think I put 2 in. So as you can see, it's definitely enough here. Just I don't know if they can see on the camera, and it's all gone mushy. Now you can put cinnamon in. We've got some cinnamon here. I've got the sugar in. Another thing in, you can put cloves. So I'm just going to put some apple in. This actually looks like it's a little bit runnier, but if you put too much less water in, you burn it like some of the other pupils do because they didn't have lids on. So I'm going to fill these up. 1. So I'm going to fill it up between the 3. This one's going to have slightly less because it's going to have some on top, right? Now some apples are bigger than others. If you think you've got a small one, you can take a second one if you've got time. So this, as you can see, is about the right amount. This one's slightly less on purpose. Now with a spatula, because this is all sticky in here, you can get the last bit out so you don't waste it. That's also going to save wasting it. I'm going to turn that off. I've finished with that. We'll do them all down here. Now, we don't all have to do the lattice. The lattice is far better, but for you today, don't worry about it if we haven't got enough time. But you'll need to sanitise the handle of it if you're passing it to someone else. So after you've used it, you'll just have to wipe it down with spray it and give it a wipe and pass it to the next person with a paper towel. So in here now, I've floured the top. You have to push down quite hard. It's a lot harder than it looks, which you'll find out. Push down hard. Then we get a little bit of water. Then we put this on here, and it goes, you'll like this, it goes like a lattice cutter, look, proper lattice cutter. It's a bit harder than it looks, as you'll find out. That goes on here. Then we can push it down around the sides, and then this bit is the other top. Do you see that? Now I might even get a 4th one. We might be able to make a jam tart or something. Yeah. If we run out of time, we'll just put the plain ones on. Yeah. We might have enough pastry brushes. We haven't got loads though. We haven't got enough for one each, so we might not. If we put normally now, we would egg wash them, and then put some sugar on, or we just might put a bit of water and sugar on them today. Where we might, or I might use an egg. I'm going to think about that. So once it's done like this, lattice cutter again. I'll tell you what we might do. I put 3 eggs in, miss, in the fridge next door. Can you bring them in? And I'm going to crack them for the whole class, whisk them up, and then they're going to use them. And we're going to find all the pastry brushes we've got, miss, and then you just have to wash it before you use it for the next person. So there are 2, so that's the 3 done. Now this bit here, I'm just going to make an extra one with it, right? But I haven't got any apple left. If you've got loads of apple, then maybe knowing I might have enough, but if not, I'll give you some jam and you can make a jam tart. Now, with this one here, you need to drain all the water out. This can be with an eating apple or a cooking apple, so you don't have to have cooking apple. You can use it eating apple or a cooking apple. So I'm going to make that. So now you arrange this in there neatly. Now if you ever go to France, I don't know if everyone goes to France, if you looked up on Google and you just put in images French apple tart, you get one of these, but normally they're nice and big. But I'm going to show you a small one. And you can brush it. When this comes out, you can put something called apricot glaze on it, which is normally apricot jam, or you can just sprinkle it with icing sugar, or they glaze it with some sort of other glaze. But I quite often glaze it with apricot jam, but we haven't got much of that, so you can just sprinkle it with icing sugar when it comes out. And or we can put some sugar in it as it goes in the oven. That will save it going dry. So as you can see, that's reasonably neat. Then we've got some sugar on the table. And I'm going to use a tablespoon because I can't, obviously don't want to put my hand in there. So I'm going to just get a spoon. Then I'm not touching it at all. I'm going to sprinkle a bit of sugar on there like so. And then we get in the oven. But the other thing you need to do is egg wash these and sprinkle a bit of sugar on. So does everybody know what to do?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to stop the recording.